Okay, good evening. Thank you for joining me in the kitchen tonight. As always, I'm Chef Studier. So we're going to be making tonight a halibut paillard. And a paillard is just a very thinly cut or pounded out protein. And tonight we'll be using fish. So we're going to want to cut it just as paper thin as possible. Probably about, I'd say, 1/8 of an inch is really what we're aiming for. And I'm going to demonstrate how to just sort of get your knife just in a nice little thin piece and then guide it down to the skin portion of the halibut. Okay, so the first thing we're going to start with this evening is I want to walk through what our ingredients are. So we're going to be using cilantro leaves tonight. So I do have some bunch of cilantro. You can also reserve the stems for something else later on. I like to throw it in my eggs in the morning, but for this dish we just need the leaves. It's going to make it really pretty when we go to serve. Also, we're going to be using scallions tonight, but we're going to be mainly using this top portion of the scallion right here. Again, you can reserve this bottom portion for another dish, but if you like a really strong flavor, you can add that in. But I like to just use this top part. And then we're going to have ginger. And as well as I'm going to be adding a green chili because I like a little bit of heat in my dish. So like one of them is just perfect. Just make sure that when we're working with it afterwards that you wash your hands before you touch anything or, your eyes. It's going to be a really nasty burn afterwards. So so just keep in mind for that. Now, another thing that we have is I'm going to be using a light soy sauce, a kikkoman. And then we have grapeseed oil. And this is really the key to this dish in addition to obviously the halibut. And the reason why is the grapeseed oil has a very high smoking temperature. So when we go to heat it up on the stove, we're going to get our pan piping hot, and then we're going to add the oil, and you're going to start to see it sort of start to almost glisten a little bit. And that's what we're looking for, and it won't smoke. If you use something like sesame oil or canola oil or vegetable oil, it'll burn really easily. So you definitely want to make sure you're using this grapeseed oil. And then the last thing we have is our pan. And we're going to use this just to spray down our plate so that we don't have too much stick, and it's easy to clean up afterwards. I am using halibut this evening. I have it already washed and I patted it dry. I'm just keeping it in my fridge, and I suggest everyone else does as well. This will help to keep the fish really nice and firm. As we're working with it, you're going to notice with the temperature in the kitchen, it's going to start to sort of become really soft, and you want it to be as solid and firm as possible for the slicing portion. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn on my oven, and we're going to set it to the broiler. So in order to do that also, you want to make sure that your racks you want to use one rack and you want to have it at the top rung. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start my oven and get that preheated. Once we get all of our ingredients prepped, the cooking process is going to be very fast. So you want that oven to just be ready to go so we can toss in this fish. So another thing actually also is this is a fish knife. I'm going to be using it for a portion of my cutting process this evening for the slicing. This is a Japanese knife. I bought it in Japan, actually, at a little sashimi shop. They sell these. You can get these at any cooking store, and they're great if you're a pescatarian or you work with a lot of fish. The other knife I'm going to be using is a standard kitchen knife as well. I made sure to hone it so it's really nice and sharp. You want your knife to be sharp before we start cutting any of the fish or anything else, really. It really eases in for the cooking process, for just even getting vegetables prepped. When you have a dull knife, it can take a lot longer to get everything cut. So I'm going to just lower you guys down here so you can see my cutting board.